And we are live.
Guns, Martinis, Gadgets, and Guns, presented by the Fantasmagorium show. We're going to continue our ever so chugging journey towards No Time to Die. And I hope that you would join us as well. Tonight, we're going to feature the film You Only Live Twice, the fifth outing by Sean Connery. I am Scotty. My opposite number, Catherine, is here. And Steve is in Q Branch with the news. What's going on, my fellow MI6ers?
Not much.
All right. Well, excellent and outstanding. You know, you're a genial bunch, and that's why I enjoy your company. There has been a lot of James Bond news going on currently.
Yes.
We've had the new 2 trailers.
We did.
Yeah, and rumor has it we're probably going to get another poster this week. Hopefully a good one.
Oh, that's
I haven't had a good
interesting.
one yet.
So everyone has seen the trailer, and unfortunately, due to things, we can't show it, right?
Right.
So, but what did you think of the Cat? What did you think of the final North American trailer?
I liked it, the way they're summing up the legacy type thing. You know, they're trying to remind the casual fans of what this franchise is before the movie comes out. I thought they revealed a little bit more, and I'm like, okay, they're homaging other Blofeld type films like On Her Majesty's Secret Service with what they're hinting at to be the villain's diabolical plot. But for the most part, I think the second trailer that was released September 3rd of last year is still my favorite. And then the trailer after that. So this is probably my least favorite. I mean, I like all 3 of the trailers. They're all 3 of them are really good. But I'd say this one is probably my least favorite of the 3 official North American trailers.
Well, and before we move on to the international trailer, I did want to talk about the final trailer. And you're absolutely right. It does recap the last
Actually,
films.
Scott, if you don't mind me interrupting, before we get into all of that, let's just do a little bit of housekeeping. Like we do every day, please like, share, subscribe. It really helps the channel grow and the show grow, especially sharing these shows and commenting below really helps to get the word out about the shows. Also, we do have some new designs. We've designed some t-shirts for the show. I thought we'd throw a few of them up real quick. So we have Martinis, Gadgets, and Guns.
Oh, I need that.
And then Martinis, Gadgets, and Guns. I actually think this one's a little bit cooler than the drone. But
yeah, that's true.
I figure there's.
I think they both have charm to them.
Yeah, so you can pick, and then basically the same thing, just with the words, the title like underneath.
That font on it. Yeah.
I do like the green. The green is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I like the one with the drone. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah.
Martinis, Gadgets, and Guns. So if you'd like to pick yourself up one of those, you can do so very easily by going to www.phantasmagoriumshow.com/shop. And you can get t-shirts now and a mug. Soon we'll transfer those to hoodies and some other stuff too. But for now, t-shirts and mugs. Also, if you'd like to send a tip with your comment and question, please do so. www.streamingelements.com/phantasmagorium-show/tip. A little tongue-tied there.
Phantasmagorium slow?
Yes.
All right.
I am slow. That's what's happening. Yeah, so with that kind of all down and out of the way, let's move on. So we didn't have a bunch of there was a bunch of news, but because of the nature of these 2 trailers we want to talk about, we'd figured let's talk about these. It's going to chew up a bunch of time, as well as getting into You Only Live Twice. So No Time to Die, final trailer released ahead of Daniel Craig's last outing as James Bond.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So yeah, as I was saying, I thought it was my least favorite of the 3 North American trailers. I do like that they're recapping most of his saga, and that they're hinting more at what the villain's plot might be. They're echoing back to Blofeld movies and such. So you were going to say something about that, Scott?
Well, and I really appreciate that it is okay. Before we get to that, my thoughts on the encapsulation of the entire Craig journey, saga, that pamphlet of James Bond's life, which I think is a perfect it is represented perfectly in the last trailer, North American wise. However, if you haven't seen the international trailer, you ain't seen nothing yet, because that trailer was the one that got me the most excited. This new trailer, like, the wait is over, and it kind of takes a little away from the cheese of looking back on what we already had, but now looking forward to this, the final mission of James Bond. And I'm excited. It really pumped me up.
Yeah.
What did you think of it?
I liked the international trailer as well. Not as much as the other one. I do like some of the shots added in there that they took from the TV spots from like February of last year. That was kind of nice. Yeah, I like them both in different ways. I think that I just like the US one a little bit more. I do love the bit at the end of the international trailer where Q's saying, "Can I get like 1 moment of peace before the world explodes?"
That was amazing. That was kind of fun.
Yeah, that was great. I do get the vibe that, you know, MQ and Moneypenny are going to have another bigger kind of role in this movie, kind of like Inspector.
Scooby Gang.
Yeah, that whole thing, and I don't think that'll carry over into the climax like in that movie, but I'm getting the sense there's more of that here. But yeah, I love the trailer, all three of the original ones. So yep, pumped. I guess they're finally doubling down. Like, yep, we're not doing it. We're not delaying it again. We can't risk losing the goodwill anymore.
Well, and we've talked about the promotional budget and how that affects what they're doing. Like, if anybody's going to double down, might as well be Bond. And also, they kind of steered away from the new 00. This is looking like a great swan song.
Yeah, it looks, just on the basis of how the visuals look, probably on par with Skyfall in terms of being the most gorgeous looking movie. It definitely harkens back to Ken Adams type sets. Feels like it's leaning more into the fantastical. Like we saw that bit in the trailer with like, what is it, like a robotic eye scanning the crowd type of thing. And then you saw the henchman with his missing eyeball coming up against the DB5. And I'm like, wait, is he the guy? Is that going to be like a connection thing? Is he going to have like a robotic eye or something? And I have flashbacks from that GoldenEye Rogue Agent video game where you have like the robotic eye that does like everything or whatever for the agent who's not named James Bond.
Mm-hmm. Well, and also you mentioned in terms of the photography, the way it looks cinematographically, like it does look good.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad we're in agreement. Anyway.
Looks significantly better than the films it's homaging.
Yeah, it looks I don't know. And I know that some people will find this as a pejorative, but this is the kind of thing where I like, except for Quantum of Solace, I like the Daniel Craig movies, but this is kind of a reinvigoration or like an energy boost, or at least through this trailer. And I put it that it looks like I will like this movie as much as I liked Star Trek Beyond. And I know that Star Trek Beyond is not a compliment for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But it is something that it's just like, yeah, no, this looks more, it looks pumped up and more kinetic than someone who is trying to homage the original.
Yeah. And I do know for a fact that at least 30 minutes of the film was shot in IMAX.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. Yeah. Anyway, what's next, Q?
Q, you're muted.
Q, pay attention. Sorry.
I was paying attention.
No, it's a quote from the movie.
I don't know why I got muted. But Being James Bond documentary coming to Apple TV on September 7th.
Yes.
Looking back on 5 films and 15 years of Daniel Craig as 007 in Being James Bond, premiering September 7th on the Apple TV app. The documentary focuses on Daniel Craig and his years as the titular James Bond. The first look trailer shows a few behind-the-scenes moments with Craig saying the role turned his world upside down. Yeah. Being James Bond arrives before the theatrical release of No Time to Die. It will feature never before seen footage from each of Craig's Bond films, including the latest installment. How do you feel about, Kat, Steve, Daniel Craig as James Bond? Do you feel like he gets to look back lovingly on the franchise, or do you feel that maybe he's already expressed many times over how much he hates being James Bond?
I think he likes it. I mean, the general consensus is the reason he came back to do the 5th one is because Spectre was such a disappointment, and he didn't want to go out on a sour note. So he does care about the character, and his reservations about coming back were mainly related to whether or not he'd get more injuries, which he ultimately did. But most of the people saying he hates it, it seems like that just comes from that one interview he did on The Tonight Show. He's like, oh, I'd rather slit my wrist than play it again. But he had just finished filming, which is why he says it's like running a marathon, and it is. And that's why he said you really have to think hard before you jump onto one of these movies, which is why I was skeptical about Idris Elba's prospects of possibly becoming the next Bond, given he's going to be 49 this month, and you really want to jump into that really extensive, physical workout type requirements to do this type of stuff, which is the same reason that Hugh Jackman retired the Wolverine role. He's like, I it's too much. I can't keep up with this anymore. So I think he likes it. So I think all the disdain for the most part is blown out of proportion. But yeah, I mean, and undoubtedly you're going to get some fluff comments, like people sort of congratulating each other and saying, oh, they're amazing and blah, blah, blah. Because this is only a 45-minute documentary. So and a lot of what they showed in that trailer feels like it's retreading stuff from even the Casino Royale DVD, which talking about his feelings about it and his reservations when he first started. So yeah, I'll check it out because it'll be streaming for a month. So I expect that they'll eventually put it on the No Time to Die Blu-ray as like a bonus feature, because otherwise, why only have it up for a month?
Well, right. a thing that I saw was this is the first time that a James Bond actor has really been bowed out, been allowed to stand before their representation of James Bond and say, "This is it, I'm done." And like Sean Connery had difficulties with producers as he left, as did George Lazenby. Roger Moore got too old. Timothy Dalton had basically he got impatient with waiting for the legal difficulties to find out whether or not there was a movie to make.
Well, he got kind of railroaded because he was still on board for GoldenEye, and then the problem was that Cubby wanted him to sign a 5-film extension, and he's like, "No, I'll do one." So I think Dalton kind of got railroaded there.
Agreed. And it was a situation where he was not willing to be railroaded. And then you have Pierce Brosnan, and he, the most successful James Bond movie at the time. And it was like, nope, we're done with you. And he was like, okay, I guess, from what I understand.
Yeah, he got kind of railroaded too. He was on set in the Bahamas filming some other movie, and he got a call from Barbara and Michael out of the blue while he was on set one day, and Barbara's crying and Michael's trying to interpret because she's trying to talk through the tears the way they described it, and they basically fired him over the phone while he was on set for another movie. And I thought that was really rotten, because you get the sense that they always put out this display like, oh, we're a big family and we really want to get to know that. Obviously they want to have a good relationship with the person playing James Bond since it's a long-term relationship, but to just throw him under the bus like that. I mean, when Roger Moore had his Die Another Day in Moonraker, they let him come back and say, okay, we'll give you another chance to see if this works, and then it did. But that's why I always thought Pierce deserved one more chance to get a more grounded, better movie, and unfortunately they didn't give him that. So you're right. I think this new one is probably going to be the most positive exit for an actor and on track to possibly be the best last movie for a Bond actor.
Well, and I suppose that's sort of what my final question in regards to this No Time to Die hype that I have is, do you think that in the pantheon, like in the movies that preceded Daniel Craig, do you think that if you are a James Bond fan, from what we've seen based on this trailer, that this is going to be an encapsulated biography of the career of James Bond? If you were to, people wonder where the Daniel Craig shows up in the Dr. No to Die Another Day. Not Die Another Day. What's the one with Madonna?
Yeah, Die Another Day.
Die Another Day. So that being the proper chronology, I kind of see this Daniel Craig, if they are making this a finale to James Bond, which I think is folly, but do you think it is an encapsulation of the entire career of James Bond?
Well, I mean, you mean like just something like what, of all 20 movies, like well, I don't think it's going to be that in the way that Die Another Day was, where they tried to homage like literally every Bond movie that came before it, and that's ultimately all that ended up being. I don't think they're doing that. I think it's kind of like Spectre, where you saw all, like, you know, they had the nod to Peace Gloria with the allergy clinic or whatever that Madeline Swan worked at, and then they had the volcano, the meteorite crater for the Spectre base as an homage to the volcano base. I think they're going to have little light homages like that, but I don't think it'll be as in your face. I feel from the trailers that there's more of a story here. Like with Spectre, it was more like, you know, follow the breadcrumbs and just look at the cinematography and let it bask over you type of thing. Whereas here, I feel that from the trailers, it sounds like there's going to be a lot of plot in this movie. I mean, and it is long, 2 hours, 43 minutes. So I don't think it's going to be, I mean, after Spectre, I don't think they're going to make the mistake of having a really slower paced, you know, oh, just look at how gorgeous everything is type of thing. So I think it's going to be more concerned with telling its own story as opposed to trying to actively encapsulate the entire saga.
But do you think it's going to encapsulate the Daniel Craig saga?
Well, yeah, because you know, the fact that it is a sequel to Spectre, I'm pretty sure they'll tie it back to
sequel. It's a sequel to Casino Royale.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like this is the first real Bond movie, which is an actual conclusion to an ongoing story where they're actively trying to wrap up loose ends, which they've never done before. So, I mean, they attempted it back in the 60s, but then, you know, Connery left, and then Lazenby left, and that kind of railroaded their plans. But I think that this is going to be more interested in wrapping up his storyline as opposed to being concerned about, hey, remember this? You know?
Yeah, great. Yes. Anyway, are you looking forward to seeing this film?
Oh, of course. It's the only movie I've wanted to see since before the pandemic. I watched the live stream of their announcement in Jamaica on April 25th, 2019. And that's when everybody thought they're going to drop a title. And then Michael told that joke. He's like, oh, I can't remember the last time we did that. You know, dropped a title, which is what they always do. So I've been eagerly anticipating this movie for almost 2.5 years now. It's like yeah, I kind of get excited for other movies. I'm going to see Shang-Chi on Friday, but it's like every film I've seen since then, just even Endgame pales in comparison to my anticipation for this.
Mm-hmm.
And that is why I love you. So, shall we rank some Lairs?
Sure.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I have 9. How many do you have?
15.
All right. Oh, I don't feel so bad. How many do you have, Steve?
10.
All right. Then I'm going to go through mine unless anyone has any.
Actually, you know what? If you don't mind, I'll go first because I'm not going to, I won't elaborate. I'll let you guys do that. I'll just kind of give you what I have and you guys can go, you know, either back or forth or run through yours if you don't mind.
No, please go ahead.
All right. Perfect.
Yeah.
So at number 10, I have Kentucky Stud Farm. At number 9, I have Blofeld's Volcano Lair.
Mm-hmm.
At number 8,
wow.
I have San Monique. Number 7, Drax's space station.
Where's San Monique?
That's the Live and Let Die.
They live and let die.
Okay.
Number 6 is it. I don't know I don't know how they pronounce this in the movie, but it's Isthmus City.
Isthmus.
Yeah, I couldn't remember the name. Okay, you got it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. The stealth train. Number 5. Number 4 is Disco Volante.
Oh.
Number 3 is that South China Sea island. What was that one?
From The Man with the Golden Gun?
Skarma something or other.
Yeah.
Number 2, Crab Key, and number 1, Atlantis.
Mm.
Is that what it's called?
From the
Atlantis from The Spy Who Loved Me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find that's ironic because Crab Key is underwater. Yeah, that's not called.
Right.
It's more decorative.
Cat. Okay, so that is your list.
That's Steve's list. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my list. That's just 10. I couldn't think of any other ones, and that was it.
So what do you got, Cat? Or would you actually? You know what? I'll go next.
Yeah, you
My number 1 is Scaramanga's Island. I really enjoy it. He has his own power conduction, and he's got Tabasco. And also, he has like a man cave of murder in the basement. It's
Nice.
a weird Chuck E. Cheese he's got. Then number 2 is Drax's space station, because it's a space station.
Yeah.
Then Stromberg's water base, which I assume
forgot about
is
Atlantis.
no, it's Atlantis.
Oh, okay.
Then I have Blofeld's complex, like his volcano land. But then after that, it's Joe's mission in Isthmus.
Isthmus.
Wayne Newton's helicopter landscape of delight.
Bless your heart.
Bless your heart. Then I got Dr. No, and then Trevelyan's train, although Trevelyan's train and the satellite dish.
Yeah, the antenna cradle.
Yeah, the antenna cradle. Someone played GoldenEye.
I did. I remember.
But yeah, it's a and you know what? I will take the antenna cradle over the
Stealth train?
Yes. Then the stealth boat
Carver's
from
stuff.
Carver's stealth boat. And then finally, just because I'm a kid who loves toys, I'm going to say Whitaker's, I don't know, playroom, where he has all the wars going on. I really like that place.
That's cool.
Okay. Cat.
All right. So I have in last place I have Franz Sanchez's mansion and the religious retreat. You know, bless your heart.
Yes.
I have Saint Cyril, which is the monastery where Christados hides out on the cliffsides in For Your Eyes Only.
Oh, that's a fucking good
I
choice.
forgot about that. That's a good one.
I've got Peace Gloria from On Her Majesty's Secret Service,
Yes.
Mountaintop Retreat there.
Yes.
I put the Liparus and Atlantis as the same because it's the same. I tend to rate them by movies as opposed to just the individual ones. So yeah, Liparus and Atlantis from Spy Love Me. I then have Palmyra and the Disco Volante from Thunderball. San Monique from Live and Let Die with the underground caves and the Voodoo Village, all that stuff. I have Kamal Khan's castle as well as Octopussy's castle because she's kind of in on it a little bit from Octopussy.
Oh, yeah.
I've got Blofeld's volcano lair from You Only Live Twice, followed by his meteorite crater base from Spectre. Yeah. I got Raul Silva's island hideout where he's got all of his his tech where he first introduced Silva and he tells a story about the rat and he kills the Severin. Yeah, that island, I thought that was really neat. I got Goldfinger's game room lounge at the Stud Farm in Kentucky from Goldfinger.
Well, Steve, you had the Stud Farm.
Yeah.
I've got Trevelyan's Soviet missile train from GoldenEye. That is unbelievably awesome.
Stealth train.
Mm-hmm.
Carver's stealth boat from Tomorrow Never Dies. I love that thing. And he's got his drill. He's got his missile launchers. I'm like, that is awesome to have all that. Next, I have in third, as I get down to my top three, I have the Moonraker Amazon base from Moonraker. I tacked the space station onto there, kind of like a combined thing for ranking the movies. But I thought the Amazon, the design of that one in the temple was really gorgeous. I love it.
Yeah.
And the source of another video game level from GoldenEye. In second place, I have Scaramanga's Island with the fun house and how he's got that nice little dinette restaurant area looking out from the cave onto the beach and all that. And then in first place, Crab Key, because if I ever have the money for it, I desperately want a Dr. No type great room decorated in the same aesthetic. Because, God, I just love it. I love that. Which combines, of course, with the room where he has all the nuclear stuff going on.
So, Kat, what would you do with $1 million?
Oh, I would build a great
I would buy Crab Key.
Right.
If only it were a real place.
$1 million.
Yes. Heavens.
Okay, guys.
We'll get to that.
I'll leave you to it. Have fun with You Only Live Twice.
Oh my
And
stars!
I'll come back when you guys are done, and we'll go over the chats.
All right.
All right. See you.
Oh, by the way, nice shirt. I like his new shirt. He got a new shirt. It was Hawaiian. It was made like
nice turtleneck.
Oh well. This is what the Blofeldians wear.
Yes.
So should we just get into it and then talk about it after?
Yes. So I guess I'll recap it. It starts with these American astronauts, and they're in orbit, and they spot this mystery ship coming forward, and the effects are pretty cheesy, and the dialogue is pretty cheesy because one of the astronauts was out on a spacewalk, and he's panicking. He's like, "There's another spacecraft!" And it comes forward and opens its mouth like a spider, and it basically captures the space capsule and severing the astronaut's lines. He falls away into space, and then the Americans are like, "What happened to our rocket?"
It's a very Superman 2 beginning.
It is, and this prompts an emergency UN meeting at this place. It's like up in the mountains, and it's got this weird spherical like dome, and everybody, instead of facing each other, they're like sitting kind of side by side on this upper balcony, so you're kind of looking up at it like that. And so the Americans are accusing the Soviets, and the Soviets are saying we didn't do it, and the British are acting as mediators and saying, well, we think whatever the mystery craft is, it landed in the Sea of Japan. And that whole scene was just really stale to me. Like, they're trying to set up these really intense stakes, but I'm just not feeling it at all. So then they're like, oh, we got a man on. The British said they have a man on it now.
But I do appreciate the negotiation between, and this is something that has always been prevalent in the James Bond movies, is that whenever there is stuff going down between the Americans and the Russians up until this point and going forward during the Cold War, it's always England who is like, don't worry about it. We'll send James Bond. He'll work it out. It's not because you guys are assholes. It's because you're misinformed. And then that's when James Bond gets to do his thing to save the world. But you were saying.
Yeah, so then we cut to James Bond. He's in the East, and he's sleeping with this woman, and he's like, how come Japanese girls taste different? I'm like, oh my God, here we go. And then she's like, what? The worse? He's like, oh, not better, just different. And it's like really weird. And fun fact, the actress that he's sleeping with comes back in Casino Royale as,
nice.
Playing cards with Lashif on his yacht and later in the main game, which is really cool.
Oh, yes.
So he's sleeping with her, and she kind of, leaves him behind. And then it turns out they were in a Murphy bed. So she pulls like the peg, and it flies up into the wall, and these two gunmen come in. The gunmen run away, and then like 2 seconds later, these cops show up, and they pull the bed down, and they see him dead. And I guess they recognize that he's James Bond. They're like, well, at least he died on the job doing what he loved. It's like, okay. And there's blood, and so you figure, okay, so Bond's dead.
Okay, so this is the second time in the history of the franchise. We're on our fifth film. This is the second time that we have been fooled into thinking James Bond is dead at the beginning of the pre-titled sequence.
Yes, it was interesting. So then we have the title song by Nancy Sinatra. I liked it.
Boom.
I thought some of the effects in the title sequence were a little shaky, but okay. So then we come back from that, and they have Bond's funeral, and it's in the newspapers everywhere. And since this is ultimately a ruse, I was kind of surprised that they put a photograph in the newspaper showing, oh, look, everybody, this is James Bond. Granted, they didn't say that he was an MI6 agent, but still, I thought that was, kind of weird. And he has a burial at sea.
They never say they don't say he's an MI6 agent. They say British naval commander murdered.
Yes, they do.
So they still maintain his cover identity.
Sort of. Except for the picture. So then,
except for the picture, yes.
Yes.
A valid point, yes.
Yeah, so then these scuba divers come from a submarine. They retrieve Bond's body from the sea burial, and then they bring him on board. And then it's revealed that when they unwrap the bandages, he's been wearing a breathing apparatus. And of course, he gets up and he's perfectly dry and fine, as you expect. He goes in to meet M. Not really clear why M is on a submarine here, but okay. And Moneypenny's there because I guess they fly their secretaries out for these things too. So he goes to meet with M, and he's talking about the dire situation, the Americans and the Soviets. And
wait, one second before you get all ahead of yourself. Now that M says, now that your enemies think that you are dead, maybe it will throw them off of your trail or whatever. They specifically said that they are doing this with purpose to put him into deeper cover.
Yes, this is the first mistake of the movie, but we'll get to that later.
All right.
So M tells him, I'm going to send you to Japan. You're going to rendezvous with our MI6 operative, Deco Henderson, and he's got some information for you. And he's like, okay. So Bond goes to Japan. He has picked up Aki, who's the better of the two Bond women in this film. She drives him drives him to meet Mr. Henderson, who's played by Charles Gray, who they'll recast just 2 movies later to play both of them.
We'll talk about that when we get there.
Yeah, so which I thought was really funny. So he meets Henderson, and Henderson's talking about how he knows a bit about this secret craft. He knows about the rocket fuel that's been smuggled around. But and he says you're going to want to meet up with Tiger Tanaka. He's the head of the Japanese secret service, and he's the guy you want to talk to. Bond's like, okay. But before Henderson can tell him the crucial piece of information that he's found out about this mystery spacecraft, he gets knifed in the back in an admittedly odd scene. He literally just stops talking mid-sentence. You don't hear anything, and even though he was standing in front of one of those paper and wood walls, so you should have heard the knife come through it, but you don't. So
I have a theory.
Yeah.
And I think that it was a poisoned blade.
Probably, yeah. Okay, yeah. So it's blade, and it doesn't make sense that the assassin who had no qualms about assassinating an MI6 agent didn't also assassinate Bond when he had the chance. But okay, so
he only had one knife.
Yeah, and so Bond gives chase, and he catches the guy, knocks him out, dresses up like him, and he's wearing Bond puts on a trench coat with a fedora and a COVID mask,
and spats.
Yes, spats. So then he runs up to the getaway car where we have this goon driving it, played by The Rock's grandfather, actually, Peter Veva, famous Samoan wrestler. Pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool. Until I'll tell you why not.
Yes, so Bond's walking up there and he's he's feigning injury so that way he doesn't have to interact with this guy in the car. Lies in the backseat. He drives him to Mr. Osato's headquarters. He picks up Bond out of the car and holds him over his shoulder and goes up. He goes in the building, up the elevator, and sets him down on the couch in one of the offices. And then he sees that it's not his partner; it's James Bond. And we
hang on before we move on.
Yeah,
this is where my disbelief fell apart. So anyway,
not with the rocket abducting the ship.
Well, no, I was fine with the rocket abducting the ship. And I know it's ridiculous. But what I'm saying is that the guy who drove the car with the minion who was supposed to kill Henderson was, I would say, I don't know, a 5'10" Japanese man.
Mm.
And now Sean Connery, who was noticeably taller and heavier than the man who murdered Henderson, the guy who picked him up and held him over his arm or his shoulder up an elevator was like, no, this is clearly a Japanese man. I am carrying my partner.
If you think that's where the disbelief falls apart, wait till we get to later in the movie.
No, but I'm saying this is the point. This is the place where I was just like, yeah, no, this doesn't make sense. So anyway, they have a crazy battle.
In which, in a very unbelievable way, Bond somehow wins this fight. I mean, the
with
guy's
couches.
yeah, with a couch. I mean, it's a good fight, but it was a fight that he wins. So then Bond goes in and breaks into the safe. The alarms go off. He steals this little microdot and this information. He flees.
Hang on, no, we can't go past that. The thing is that he goes in and he has a gadget and he puts it on a safe and he's like turning and clicking and turning and clicking. And then when he finally opens it up, it's like all of your turning and clicking. It did avail you to whatever was in the safe. But no, you're still getting caught. I feel like it was a letdown. I thought he was
right, he's being sneaky about breaking in the safe, but then the alarm goes off anyway.
Yeah.
And then you're just stealing this tiny little microdot. It's like, okay. So he steals it. He leaves. The gunmen are trying to kill him, and then Aki drives up and saves him in the car. So they take off, and this is where it really, if you think that's odd, this next part's really odd.
I didn't say odd. I said hot. Aki is
odd. I thought you said odd, but it is odd as well. So here's what's odd about it. So she rescues him. She drives to the subway, and even though they're both playing for the same team, she flees into the subway as if she's running from him. He gives chase, falls down a trap door through this, weird slide, and ends up in Tanaka's secret office. Which I admit, this if Tanaka were a villain, this would be on my list for one of my favorite Lairs. This is so cool that he just has this really nicely designed set in his hideout in the base of the subway. But it's like, okay, if you're on the same side, why are you running from him and dropping him through a trap door? Why not just go in and introduce him to Tanaka? But it's like, okay.
I have a theory.
Okay.
Now, Japan, what year was this movie released?
1967.
I would say that Japan is still of its time. And well, I mean that people would be generally racist against the Japanese of its time. This is an exotic place. This is something where we are not sure of. This is the Orient. And so I don't know. I don't want to ascribe negative perceptions towards people of the past, but I would think that James Bond is on his toes throughout this. Nothing in this movie has made James Bond on sure footing. And so him being rescued, saved, driven around, what have you, when he has to chase Aki, I kind of think that it is also Tiger Tanaka trying to establish trust with James Bond as well. And that is represented when he says, well, if you're Tiger, how do you feel about me? Because they've established the code word.
Bond already issued those same code words to Aki when they first met, when he went to meet her. So she knew he was the person she was supposed to meet.
Yeah, but as far as James Bond knows, James Bond met a chick who took him to Henderson and got Henderson killed. Could be Aki's fault.
Right, he doesn't know that, but what I'm saying is that he gets in the car with her, they're talking all fine. It's not that he starts chasing her. She deliberately starts running away as if afraid of him. And that didn't really make sense because, like, wait. All right, so he
does threaten her.
Yeah, kind of. So they get down there to meet Tanaka, and they verify through the code words you are who you say you are. Then he takes him onto this really neat train, and I love this little set. It's like a really sweet office inside his train that just goes probably throughout the subway system. I love this little lair that he has.
Well, and this is when James Bond and Tiger have met.
Yeah, they met in the other room, and then he takes them onto the train. They're talking. He's like, "Oh yeah, Aki's mine," and Bond gives him the information. It's a microdot that he said, and he tells him where he got it from. So he pews it up, and it has two things on it. One, there's a photograph of a ship called the Ningpo, which is in some harbor, but they don't know exactly where it is yet. And then there's a message on the microdot that says the photograph is taken by a tourist who was killed. And the message is written in a manner as if to assure presumably Mr. Osato, because it was his safe, to assure him that don't worry, the person who took the photo is, dead, and that it's not, it's nothing you have to worry about. So Tanaka says he'll get on top of it, finding out who owns the boat, where's the photo from, blah, blah, blah. And this is where another thing, it's like he assures him he's going to do these things, but Bond decides, no, I'm going to go back to Mr. Osato's headquarters, despite that they all just tried to kill me, and just, again, waltz right in, kind of like he does in Thunderball when he kept the lunch date at Palmyra, despite seeing that it's armed to the teeth. And he's like, yeah, I'm just going to go, rather than waiting on Tanaka to see what their intelligence says, I'm just going to waltz back into his office the next day and hope this goes well. And he goes there.
Yeah, why does he go back in?
Yeah, there's no reason.
As Mr. Fisher.
Right, so he goes in there as Mr. Fisher, and Osaka's got this little X-ray machine and sees that Bond's armed. He is cordial with him. He's just like, okay, we'll call you later. And Bond tells him where his hotel is, and then he turns to Helga Brandt and who's basically Helga is Fiona Volpe 2.0. Not just because she's a redhead, but she actually looks the same. Her voice
not
is
Fiona Volpe. She's Rosa Klebb 2.0.
I thought she was Fiona Volpe 2.0.
Well, she was a poor cover song.
Exactly. So Bond leaves. Once again, the guards try and kill him when he's on his way out. So it's like, okay, we're repeating the exact same thing that happened the night before. So, and once again, Aki shows up and saves him in the nick of time. There's a car chase, and they call Tanaka for help. And in a very not obvious way, he flies in with a helicopter with a giant magnet to grab the bad guy's car and just drop it in the ocean.
But I gotta say, this is amazing. And this is part of the reason why the James Bond movies, up until this point and continuing forward, were really, really popular action movies, is that this was something that was done physically. They got a helicopter with a magnet, and they picked up a car and they threw it in the ocean for your entertainment. This is what these movies have done. These are the blockbusters of yore. But I agree with you that it is absolutely ridiculous. They were spending way too much money. I don't understand anything that's going on. If there is a shark, it was jumped before the opening credits.
Yeah, and it feeds into another potential plot hole and problem I have with the movie, which we'll get to when we talk about it at the end. But
is it about magnets?
No. So he drops the car drops the bad guys in the ocean, and then on the little TV screen and on the car phone, they talk to Tanaka, and sure enough, he tells them, okay, we've tracked the boat. It's going to be at this harbor. It's going to be taking off for Shanghai within an hour. And Aki says, oh, we're close by. We'll head over there to check it out. So Bond and Aki go to the docks, and they're wandering around. They get found out immediately. Bond decides to lure them away so that Aki can make a good escape. He's actually particularly brutal here, just shooting guys dead left and right, even though they're just
you know what? I did notice the fact that he shot first, and I was like, well, that's no way to keep cover.
Right, so Aki...
Before you go on, I would like to highlight the music. I do really enjoy the music, no matter when, everything about it, the running, the cinematography, the helicopter photography, everything about this. This is a blockbuster in the 60s.
Yeah. So anyway, he tries to evade the guards. He runs on the roof. He jumps off the roof and lands on this big pile of containers with a soft covering on it. And then he does the same thing again to get on the ground. And then he gets knocked unconscious from behind. And even though Mr. Osato was back at his headquarters just half an hour earlier and didn't leave the building, somehow Mr. Osato is magically here. So they have Bond taken on the boat. He wakes up tied to a chair in Helga's her little suite. And she implies that she's going to torture Bond with all these little knives. And he tries to bribe her, saying, "Oh, we could, make out the money and get out of here." And she pretends to go along with it, I guess, because she thinks he's hot.
To the point of coitus.
Yeah, and if you had still reservations about whether or not she's Fiona Volpe 2.0, when Bond steps up after she lets him out of the chair, he starts hugging, kissing her, and he says, "The things I do for England," as he's unzipping the back of her dress. Which is the exact same thing he said in an alternate cut of Thunderball when Fiona gets out of the bathtub. And he starts undoing her dress in the same way. So it's like, okay. And then, so they sleep together. And then it cuts to an airplane. Because I was going to call her Fiona. Because Helga decides that she's going to kill Bond in this ridiculously elaborate way. Bond seemed to think that she had accepted his bribe and they were flying back to Tokyo.
She wants to kill James Bond with a serving tray.
Yes, she's going to trap his arms under the serving tray. She gets the parachute and takes off. Bond breaks out, and he looks totally unconcerned while he's doing this, but not in a cool, suave way, more like in a bored way, which is one of the other complaints I have about the movie on the whole. So he crash lands the plane. And I forgot to mention, when he was riding in the car talking to Tanaka, he did ask Tanaka to have Q bring little Nellie down to Japan. So after he successfully lands the plane, he goes in to meet Q, and it's not really clear where they're meeting. I guess they're meeting at some village away from the island where away from the area where they think the ship is. Because, as we mentioned before, like, why did he go to Osaka's office rather than just wait for Tanaka to get back with his information? Likewise, there's no reason for him to go to the dock, because Tanaka has found out where that harbor was, where that photo was taken, So if he had just waited, he would have avoided getting killed nearly, 3 times or whatever. So they tell him this is where we're going. And
wait, Cat, did I tell you how long ago my suspension of disbelief fell away? All right.
So Q shows up, and they have this weird series of jump cuts to establish the construction of Little Nellie, and it actually looks pretty cool.
It is cool. It's really cool. And also, that was a real helicopter.
It was. That's what's really neat about it. My problem with this action scene where he takes off on Little Nellie to survey the island where the ship, the Ningpo, had been, is that other than a few of the wide shots, which you could tell they did for real for a lot of the action, all of the shots of the Connor you could tell is on rear projection, and it's really bad.
Well, okay. Go, please finish your thought.
So you have this big action scene where the 4 helicopters come out of nowhere, despite that Bond didn't see any helicopter landing ports. He didn't see anything suspicious in the village. You have this big action scene, and funnily enough, at the end of the scene, he fires these 2 heat seeker missiles forward. They zoom around immediately and hit the targets. It's like, why didn't you just do that to begin with? So here, and the thing is, this scene, they already knew that there's something suspicious about the island because they knew about the rocket fuel being smuggled. They knew from the ship that if they just waited for Tanaka's information, they'd find out that the ship was here. So you get this whole Little Nellie sequence, and it doesn't really help us move the plot forward because, okay, we knew that the bad guys were here, but we still don't know much about where they are here. So he flies back, and he reports that,
Hang on just 1 second. I would like to say Little Nellie is an auto gyro.
It is.
Not a helicopter. My mistake.
I have one of those little diecasts of that. So he starts flying back he says, returning to base or whatever. And then we cut to the Soviets who launched their own rocket into space. It gets abducted by the mystery spacecraft. Soviets are getting angry. The tensions are raising. And once again, it just still feels really stale. So then we finally, we get to see where the mystery craft lands. It goes to this volcano on the same island that Bond had just been to. And the crater.
I like that thing. I like the idea.
So the crater opens. The rocket lands inside, and you see one of Ken Adams' crowning achievements. Now, I admit, from a craftsmanship standpoint, it's really impressive that they actually built this thing to scale at Pinewood Studios. It's amazing. But it's not really beautiful to me in the way that Dr. Node's lair was, or Goldfinger's Game Lounge, or Fort Knox. It's kind of like it's a big cave with a rocket launch pad in it. Okay. But it's very impressive, again, from a mechanical and craftsmanship standpoint, that they actually built these things to be functioning and doing what you see them doing on screen, which is really cool.
Well, and it's interesting because we were talking about the layers of villains earlier. And what is the submarine, like the giant submarine that collects all? Was that Atlantis? Was that Stromberg?
That was an oil tanker called the Lairs.
Yeah, and that was Stromberg's, though, right? Yeah, like that is, I think that is a bigger achievement than this particular, although as being a movie of its time.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So we find out that the guy who's in charge of all this and responsible for abducting the rockets is Blofeld, the #1 head of Spectre.
Well, hang on. And now that you've mentioned Spectre, how many times have they mentioned Spectre in this film?
Not at all, really, up to this point.
Once.
They did they?
There is one moment where they say, okay, well, who is capable of this level of nefarious orbital?
Yeah.
And Bond says, there's only one that I can think of, Spectre. And it's a throwaway line. And then we, and the entire time we've been seeing a guy with a ring petting a cat. You were saying.
So we meet that it's Blofeld, and we find, and he's in this side lair outside of the main crater of the volcano. And I actually really like this lair as well. He's got the piranha pool. He's got another painting, which I presume was probably stolen at the time as well. He's got the rug and the couch, and it's a really nice place. So he's talking.
He does refer to it as his office. I'll be in my office.
Yes. So he's talking to two guys who we assume are agents from China. And they're like, oh, we're going to pay you. Blofeld's demanding that they pay him the £100 million for this operation, which to me seems a little cheap considering the clear expense the Spectre has invested in this plot. So they ask for the money, and the agents push back on it. Like, no, we can't. But we're not going to pay this now. We're going to wait till the war has started. And he's like, no, you got to pay me now. And then $100 million later, it's like, oh, that's extortion. And he's like, well, that's kind of what we do.
It's in the name, bro.
Yeah, but he doesn't think they're taking him seriously, so he decides to make an example out of Mr. Osada and Helga Brandt. So he calls them into his office and asks about Bond, and they're like, oh, it's impossible. Bond's dead. It was in all the papers, and they're lying, of course, because they assume that Blofeld doesn't know that Bond has actually made it to Japan. But of course, he reveals that no, I know for a fact that you failed to kill him. So then they Osaka and Helga are sweating bullets, and they start blaming each other. And he's like, oh, y'all know the price of failure. Now get out of here. And
kill the redhead.
Once again, they're tricking you into thinking it's going to be Osada who's going to eat it, much like they tried to trick you into thinking it was Kronstein or the other Blofeld. And the trap door falls, and Helga gets eaten alive by the piranha. And you could tell the two Chinese agents who were standing there were kind of taken for a second, which was the whole point in Blofeld doing that. Of course, he was going to kill them anyway because they failed. And then he shouts in this really awkward voice, but kill Bond now.
Ow!
Yeah, this really high-pitched voice. It's like, that's another problem. Okay, so then we cut to Bond in a helicopter being flown to Tanaka's ninja academy. And it's like, wait a minute. When we last saw Bond, he was in Little Nelly flying back to meet Q, Tanaka, and Aki. And now for some reason that we've gotten back to him, he's separated from them and had to take a long helicopter trip to this place. It's like, why did they ever separate? It's like, I'm not really sure. So
it kind of feels like meanwhile back at the novel.
Yeah. So he lands there. Tanaka gives him a tour. You have a bunch of superfluous bits of guys training, and he talks about the plan. And he says, well, we're going to have to sneak you into this village on the island by having you marry a woman there, but you'll have to go undercover as Japanese. And so they do this.
By the way, I would like to say that throughout this film, people think that James Bond, Sean Connery, 6 foot, how tall was he?
Like over 6 feet or more.
Yeah. This man could be Japanese. He passes as Japanese. Even if he slouches, he could be a Japan man. And yeah.
So then we have this super cheesy, ridiculous scene, which aside from how racist it is, the idea that, oh, we can make anybody Japanese by just giving them a crop top haircut and,
they literally give him eye prosthetics.
They do. And even though they imply that they're going to shave his chest, in the next scene where you see him at nightfall dressed up in the suits, you see them getting the sponges ready to shave him. They even make a joke about it. But then I got something better. And so
they shave his eyebrows. They do this.
Yeah. So they do that, and it's cringy as all hell. So
hell!
They needed a little surgery room for this. It's like, what the... So then we cut to
Mr. Bond. If you could join us in the Asian room.
Yeah.
What?
So, and even though he's already been told Aki can't pose as his wife because she's not from the village. She's not from there. It needs to be somebody there.
Makes sense.
So, yeah, that makes sense. But he goes to sleep with her anyway. So I guess, yeah, he can sleep with her for tonight. It doesn't matter. So he shows up and he looks all, Japanese. And the thing that's just really dumb about this is it doesn't even work because almost immediately there's an assassin who tries to kill him, and he accidentally, with this water torture thing, poison, and he accidentally kills Aki instead.
Yep.
And Bond fires in retaliation, and Tanaka rushes in, and he's like, "The girl's dead."
Yeah, but also I would like to, raise a glass to Aki.
I know, I liked her. I mean, a lot of fans didn't really get the appeal. I kind of liked it. Like earlier in the movie when, I forgot to mention that part. The whole scene when Tanaka, after meeting Bond, takes him to the spa, and they get in the jacuzzi and they select a woman, they get the massage, and The massage.
Aki's all in.
Yeah, that was a really cringy kind of scene all over to watch as well, with Tanaka saying, "Oh yeah, Japan, men come first, women come second," and he's like, Bond's like, "I have to retire here." But when he's getting
but that's again, that's one of those. It's an exotic thing that is of its time. But Aki is very much into James Bond.
Yeah, and it's great because when she sneaks in to replace the masseuse earlier in the film, he's excited to see her, of course, because she saved his life the night before.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of reviews where people don't seem to understand that. They seem to forget that notion. They're like, "Oh, this girl you knew for 5 minutes. What do you care?" It's like, she drove the getaway car and saved him in the nick of time. I mean, of course he cares about her to some extent.
Like, she works for Tiger Tanaka. She is clearly capable. She has contacts with Henderson. She is on James Bond's side. She is one of the most capable female
up to this point in the series.
Yeah.
I was sorry to see her go. I thought she was I liked her personality. She was cool, and that was too bad.
So anyway, she's dead.
Yeah, she's dead. And then the next scene, Tanaka decides to play this like running joke on Bond where the woman you're going to marry is really ugly and pig-faced. And the fact that Bond is genuinely worried about this, I'm like, dude, it's for the mission. It's not a real marriage. Like, what do you care? And when he keeps going on about it. And they even drag it out where they're at the wedding scene and you see the first woman walk up in the bridal dress and it's an older woman, maybe the bride's the mother or something. And then other older woman in the bride's dress has walked up, whoever that is. And then finally they bring up Kissy Suzuki, who's one of undercover agents who's been undercover at this island in the village for quite a while. So
she's also really good at her job as well.
Yes, she's very good at her job. So they get married. They take a boat to the island. And
before that, James Bond says, "You want to fuck? We're undercover. We got to keep up appearances." And she's all like, "No, this is business."
Right. So before that, they get on the boat, they go to the island, and there's a funeral procession going by. They step away, kind of pay their respects, and then they go into her house, and that's when he asks her if, you want to fuck? And she's like, "No, business, blah, blah, blah." They have a little chat about that. And that night,
long story short, no fucking.
Yes. So that night, Tanaka comes and disturbs them in their sleep and says that the Americans have, they moved up the deadline, and that they have like the countdown has started now for the next rocket that's going to go into orbit. And Bond realizes they got to hurry. And here's the thing which really catches me here is when Tanaka says, "Well, I've already had my agents scouring the island. We haven't seen anything." And I'm like, time out. But Bond he went over there in Little Nelly and flew around because apparently Tanaka wasn't going to be able to do it himself, or Bond didn't think he could do it. You're now having this whole thing where he's got to go undercover as a Japanese guy to sneak on the island, but Tanaka has a whole bunch of 100 undercover ninjas or whatever who are already on the island investigating.
We didn't even talk about the ninjas.
Yeah, I did. I forgot to mention when Bond was training to be a ninja.
We'll talk about the ninjas later. We'll talk about that
later. It's not important. So Bond and Aki. So Tanaka tells them this that the deadline's been moved up, and they're like, "Well, nothing suspicious has happened. We don't know what to do." And Aki's like, or not Aki. I keep saying Aki. Kissy Suzuki.
Kissy.
Says, "Oh well, something else happened. There's this woman who went on this boat into the cave, and the boat came back out, and she was dead." And I don't really fault her for not mentioning this earlier because it's a big village. A lot of inevitably people are going to die. Weird things are going to happen, but the fact that she thought it was important or seemed to think it, I guess she thought that Tanaka would have taken care of it and she didn't need to bring it up. But anyway, she mentioned it. The next day, Bond and Kissy go out in the fishing boat. Why they didn't go out immediately since the deadline was moved up, I don't know. But they wait.
The reason they were going to use the boats amongst the other fishing fleet, and so that's how they were going to be able to steer away into the cave.
Right, I think the other boats would notice if they steer away from the fleet, though. But okay. So they go down. So they go into the cave.
Telling you what the movie told me.
Yeah. So they go into the cave, and they start smelling this gas. And Bond's like, "Go jump!" And you look, and you can see the water's actually steaming because this is Bond determines this is a runoff from the volcano. But no, let's dive into this water. It's perfectly safe.
It really comes out of nowhere where he's just like, "It's gas," and it's like, "Is it?"
Yeah. So they swim out. They get on shore, and they look at the volcano. Now, this has got to be at least 100 miles away if you actually had to walk the whole way when you see the establishing shot, or if you took the road up there, it would be probably a 100-mile drive. And he's like, "Oh, let's go up there." And he's like, "Can you manage it?" And she's like, "Sure." And she's wearing this skimpy bikini and flip-flops or a slipper shoes or whatever. And they hike all the way up here in no time flat. they see that this helicopter landed
Well,
in
and
the.
also, I would like to point out that like Bond is wearing a kimono of some sort. Like he's wearing a very simple frock.
For a time, because when they get up there, he says that, oh, the helicopter went down there, let's go investigate. They go down into the crater. It's nightfall. They see that the crater bed is actually metal. So he finds that there's going to be a way in. So he sends her back to go get Tanaka and his men. Because it's totally believable after going this 100-mile hike that she's going to be able to go all the way back to get them and come all the way back up. And
I know I'm skipping ahead, but there is a moment later on in the film where it shows her, because like they took a boat to the cave, right?
Yeah.
Like she's swimming through the ocean, and a helicopter comes to attack her individually, and it's just like, no. Anyway, so Aki is going off on her own adventures while James Bond does which?
Yeah, so Kissy is going off on her own adventure to find Tanaka because Aki's dead. So Bond sneaks in.
Yes.
And that's the thing. Bond takes off the kimono and stuff, and he's wearing the outfit, the like almost like a frogman type outfit, which you're wearing there.
The blue turtleneck.
Yeah, so he gets these like suction cup things, and he starts walking along down inside the base, and he goes through this side tunnel. He finds
cat. I can't.
I know.
Do these suction cup things work?
Not in reality, I wouldn't think. Not in the surface.
I don't even know. The only other place that I can think of is that I've seen them in Superman, but at least that was against glass. But like, I don't think.
Yeah, it's not even on the surfaces that he's using it would work. But so he gets down, he goes into the side tunnel, he finds the American and Soviet astronauts have been locked up, so at least they're still alive. He lets them out. He steals one of the spacesuits and decides, for some reason, he thinks it's a good idea to try and sabotage the mission from the rocket that's about to be launched, as opposed to trying to sneak. I guess he decides that he's too outnumbered. So he tries to sneak aboard this rocket, which is designed disguised as a Soviet this time.
He breaks out all the captured astronauts.
So he gets in the suit. He's boarding, but Blofeld notices that he's still carrying his air conditioner inside, which is something an astronaut would not do. So he immediately calls to have him replaced with a reserve astronaut and have Bond brought to him. So Bond has walked into the control room. They take off his helmet, and you have this really weird shot where Blofeld is sitting in the chair, but his henchman Hans is standing in front of him, kind of blocking him. And rather than just having Hans step out of the way, he's kind of leaning around in the chair with this weird look. And it's got to be the most anticlimactic meeting ever because they've been building this character up for like 3 of the previous 4 movies. And he's too preoccupied to launch the rocket to really engage with Bond. And Bond has no clue who he is either because he's never heard the Blofeld name. So it's like a really weird scene. The whole time you could tell the cat is just freaking out, and Donald Pleasance is having a harder and harder time holding the cat in place.
Yeah.
So that Tanaka eventually shows up.
But this is wait. Yeah. Before we move any further, like this is a moment in film history. James Bond meeting Ernst Stavro Blofeld.
Oh, I'll cover all that.
Donald Pleasance introduces himself. James Bond should not care.
Right.
So anyway, moving on.
All right. So anyway, Blofeld's talking about his evil scheme. Bond figures out what the plan is, and he asks Blofeld for a cigarette. And he says, "Oh, sure, give Bond his cigarette." So of course it's a trap, and he picks up the cigarette and it shoots out this little dart that hits one of Blofeld's goons. Bond starts fighting, and he makes his way over to the control switch, and he pulls the lever, which starts opening the crater where Tanaka and all his men have already been engaging with, I guess they're drone guns or other agents. They didn't really show who was shooting at him. It's just they have been receiving heavy fire, and so they start repelling inside. You admittedly have this really great shot where you have like the super wide shot where you have all of Tanaka's agents and everybody coming down the tow road, down there, whatever, shimming down the cables, and you have all the bad guys rushing in, and then you have this huge climax, which is basically, 2 giant armies of extras fighting each other. The rocket, meanwhile, is closing in on the American rocket up in space, and apparently Blofeld's plan is to let the Russian rocket abduct the American rocket, so the Americans think the Soviets are doing it, but then he says he's going to destroy the rocket anyway with this self-destruct function, I guess, to then trick the Soviet. Like, okay, so you want to trick the Americans into thinking...
Okay, easy, Tiger. Before you start downgrading Blofeld's mission, like, we do have we have airplanes in the air trying to defend American property, and nuclear war is imminent.
Yeah.
If this American orbital device, satellite, what have you, is captured, then the Americans are going to drop some nuclear bombs on Russia. And so World War III is imminent. James Bond is responsible for stopping that.
Yeah, so then the big battle's going on, and Blofeld decides to take Bond into this other room. So they walk into his office. No. They walk across the bridge, and rather than just pushing Bond into the piranha pool, he decides to walk him all the way around to the side door, where Asado is still with them at this point. And Blofeld pulls the gun and turns it on Bond. He's like, "Now, Bond, you see the price of failure. Always tricking us into thinking he's going to kill somebody else." And then he turns the gun on Asada and kills him. The cat at this point... No! Yes, the cat at this point has just had enough of being held on by Donald Pleasance and takes off, and Blofeld doesn't. Yep. They go down the side tunnel. Blofeld sits on his little monorail cart, and he points the gun square at Bond's head, and he's like, I'm going to kill you, or whatever. And Tiger Tanaka gets there in the nick of time to throw a ninja star at Blofeld's wrist, causing him to drop the gun. Pew! The monorail takes off, and Bond makes a decision. He's like, I'm not going to go after Blofeld, but I'm going to go try and break into, to self-destruct the rocket.
Well, that is going to stop World War III, so yes, it's the right choice.
I'm not saying it's a bad decision. It was a good choice. So they fight their way there. They get inside. Bond manages to self-destruct the rocket in the nick of time. We cut back to the UN base where the American, top brass are, military brass, and they call off the assault. And then Blofeld, getting off his monorail cart, hits this conveniently placed self-destruct button. And you have explosions going off everywhere, which is pretty cool, actually, to see this entire massive base, life-size, again, being destroyed for real. As Bond, Tanaka, the hostages, and all of Tanaka's ninjas, and for some reason, the Kissy Suzuki wearing this really skimpy outfit rather than, she went all the way back to Tanaka but didn't get a uniform on or anything. So they're all swimming through this, what should be toxic boiling water, through that tunnel again.
Kissy Suzuki is an agent.
Yes. Yeah, she's an agent, but she's not. Yeah, so they leave. The whole volcano collapses in on itself. The lava's spewing out everywhere. Bond is unable to catch Blofeld, and you have these C-17s or whatever dropping these big life rafts in the water. Bond and Kissy get on a life raft. It gets separated from all the others somehow, and the next afternoon, M and Moneypenny and their submarine surfaces right below the raft, and he tasks Moneypenny with going to go fetch Mr. Bond. And they start kissing with Kissy, and then, they live happily ever after. And the end.
Consider yourself.
Here's the thing. I have a lot of problems.
And, wait. And James Bond will return. Not James Bond will return. James Bond will come back.
That's right. In honor matches.
Yes.
So
how did you feel about this film?
Okay, there's so many problems with this movie. For starters, if you've been building up the Blofeld character for three of the previous 4 films, only 2 of which of those he appeared in, then it stands to reason if he and Bond are going to meet for the first time that this should mean something. And if you're going to have Bond fake his death, why not say that the MI6, the intelligence community has found out that, there's this guy Blofeld from Spectre who's put you on a hit list for sabotaging all...
They do allude to that. They do say maybe some of your old friends will stop paying attention.
Right, but it's like, I feel that they should have given him at least, it had to be Blofeld doing that, they'd know that, so he'd at least have a name to work with. So you're building up to something, because I found that not only was Donald Pleasance, he's very iconic appearance, obviously the basis for Dr. Evil, but it's not remotely consistent with Anthony Dawson and Eric Pullman's tag team version of Blofeld, who was so much better. And the one you really wanted to see. This guy's he's got a high-pitched voice. He's kind of weird. And it's just the fact that, again, that he's more preoccupied with launching his rocket than talking to Bond. The fact that Bond has no clue that this is actually the head of Spectre. He just sees it as this guy, Blofeld. So it's like one of the most anticlimactic meetings between hero and villain ever, since they've spent all this time building this up.
I have a theory.
Yeah, so you get to your theory first. And it's fine if Blofeld escapes. I didn't have a problem with that. But if you're going to have him escape, maybe you have Bond fight Blofeld to get to the self-destruct button or something.
Kat, you and I have been going on this journey of watching these movies again in order and seeing what we have seen. This is the 5th. We have seen James Bond 5.
Yeah.
I feel like this is the movie that defines everything that comes after it, but also betrays everything that came before it.
Right.
And I feel like You Only Live Twice is like seeing the first album when your favorite band becomes popular.
Right. And so it's kind of like, because that leads into my other big complaints about this movie. So the fact that, M knew that Henderson had valuable information at the beginning of the film. Well, why didn't Henderson just tell M the information over the phone? I'm sure M has a secure line. And he could have just told him what he knew, which presumably was going to be, I assume that Henderson knew that the ship belonged to Osato, because he didn't get to say whatever crucial piece of information he wanted before he got killed. So it's something to that effect. It's like you could have just told him that and avoided all of this extra stuff. Same thing I mentioned earlier with Tanaka. It's like if Bond had just waited for Tanaka's guys, they would have told him that this is the ship, it belongs to Osato, and here's the harbor that it goes to. So they would know the island to begin with, and he wouldn't have to go again through those redundant motions of sneaking into Osato's headquarters or going back into Osato's headquarters and going to the docks and all that. And the fact that Tanaka is so ballsy that he'll fly a helicopter with a giant magnet to abduct a guy's car in broad daylight. It's like, okay, so if you're the head of the Secret Service, why don't you just send your guys over to the island like now? It's like, why are we going through this whole undercover crap? And, the fact that this is, again, 1967, so you still have, there's the Japan Self-Defense Force, but there's the American military as well. And this concerns the West. It's like, why are we not informing the West with more updating them in real time as to what we're learning in this investigation to alert them to the fact that, hey, we don't think it's the Soviets. We think it's something going on over here at this island in Japan, and we have good reason to believe that. But we're not going to do that. And the thing that Bond had no problem in previous films sneaking into Crab Key, sneaking into Ark Enterprises, sneaking into Palmyra, sneaking into that drug lord's heroin lab in the pre-title sequence of Goldfinger, all without having to do any crazy disguises or anything. But we got to go through this whole 15-minute thing where he's got to go undercover as Japanese and get married and go to the karate school.
Oh my God. I lost my shit when he got shot out of a torpedo tube. And I was like, oh my God, the shark jumped.
Yeah, that too.
This is a super powered person that is going to get out of everything no matter what. And when he gets surgically altered to be Japanese, I was just like, I lost interest in the reality of this hours ago.
Well, the point overall that I was making with all these redundancies is that it feels like this movie just had a lot of dead air, because it's like they came up with the idea basically that we're going to build the biggest set we've ever built, and we're going to put Blofeld there because he's a Spectre, and that'll just solve everything. It's like the movie will run around it, and it's like I feel again that there's a lot of dead. Like, why are we spending so much time at the Ninja Academy? Why is Bond doing things that he doesn't have to do when you have Tanaka and the Secret Service right there? Why? And the other thing that just brings down the whole movie.
If I may interrupt before you bring down the whole movie, I think that the cinematography, the stunts, the Little Nelly, the car rides when there weren't blue screen or background projection, everything about the practical effects of this movie were shown on screen. Yes. And this was an exotic, exciting, practical film that was amazing until Sean Connery showed up on blue screen, and it was like, okay.
Yeah, so it's like, I feel that, again, it's a bunch of dead air. I thought, well, we have this cool set. We're going to have this awesome climax, which you could tell is where all the money in the budget went, as well as the Little Nelly sequence. And it's like, well, we have to fill in all the airtime. So what do we do? And then we're just going to do all those, again, redundant scenes that don't really make much sense. And the thing which brings down the whole movie for me is that you could tell that Connery is really bored. He's not giving it his all in this one. He doesn't have the charm. Like, he just feels so like, okay, been there, done that. Like when he's trapped in the plane and it's falling out of the sky, and he just kind of looks like, oh hum, but not in the cool, I've got this type of Bond way. More like in a dull, okay, we're going through the motions type of thing. Everything in this, it's like, and we know that the behind the scenes stuff was basically that Connery was upset because he didn't think he was getting paid enough, whereas the producers he felt were making a lot more money, which is a bit ironic because when he came back 2 movies later and got paid $1 million for it, he ended up donating all of his salary to charity. So I'm not sure why he's so pissed off about maybe I guess for a matter of principle, but it's like,
well, before we move on, like last week when we were talking about Thunderball, I said that this was the last one that I thought that he was actually enthusiastic about, and the last one that he cared about. And I was looking for Sean Connery to be enthusiastic with You Only Live Twice, and I thought he was. Like, I know the behind the scenes and I know the troubles that Sean Connery had, but I didn't feel like a boredom with him.
Yeah, I felt he was really kind of bored and phoning it in, but I know this is me. So that combined with the fact that they botched Blofeld, they've been building up that character. The meeting is so anticlimactic. Bond has no clue who it is, and the whole, all those scenes that make no sense because you got Tanaka right there with the whole Secret Service, so we're able to do. So you already have all your agents undercover scouring the island. Why does Bond need to go undercover? So all of this basically makes this movie my least favorite in the whole franchise. Actually, it was a chore to watch this movie. I
thought it was hilarious.
Like you said, the cinematography was good when there wasn't back projection. The landscapes were gorgeous, but I thought he was really boring, and the plot makes all these, like you said, they jump the shark so many times, and it's just. I can forgive jumping the shark up to a point if you're still entertained, but I was just kind of bored while watching this and really disappointed because you're looking forward to Connery's encounter with Blofeld that they've been building up, and it's just, it just felt like I felt like kind of the way the Connery era villains were kind of on a downward projection. Like Dr. No, the epitome of class. For Russia with Love, Red Grant, he's great, but they don't use him very much. Granted, they didn't use Dr. No very much either, but it fits that story. Goldfinger, I like him as a character, even though it was a villain. I wasn't really feeling the villainish vibes as much as I should have. Largo, good actor, good role, but he and Bond don't really get to have that many scenes together either. And then here, it's just with Pleasance, it was so odd. It's just, I just didn't like this movie at all.
Well, and also, when I described it to a friend of mine last night, I said that it was hilariously bad. I feel that this is a change in the production of James Bond movies, and this is when they really got into the formula of what we would see for the next 10, 12, 13 years. Like, this is the formula that made James Bond movies. This is the movie that is the prepackaged lunchable James Bond movie. And I think that they did it. It was directed by Lewis Gilbert. And if I'm not mistaken, he goes on to direct on Her Majesty's.
No.
Oh.
He goes on to direct The Spy Who Loved Me and Moonraker.
Who directs on Her Majesty's?
Peter Hunt, the editor of the first few films.
Which I think is going to be a pleasant surprise, maybe a sorbet next week. But like, I just felt that this was the one that everyone else, and even the parodies, relied upon.
Oh yeah,
this movie is the shorthand for James Bond.
Yeah, and it got the short end of the stick.
Well, it wasn't a very good movie. And I think that it was much more in service of the action and the spectacle as opposed to the intrigue and the character. As I mentioned, like the first 4, like they seemed tight. And this one is extravagant.
Right. It's not a mistake that the first 4 are called the Fab Four. And then after that, it kind of went downhill for Connery. So yeah, it's my least. Well, because the worst thing a Bond film can be to me is boring. It's like if I'm bored while I'm watching it, then I don't care if the logic is better than, say, another movie like say Die Another Day has less, which is at the bottom of the barrel as well. Less plot logic there, but I have a little more fun watching that in terms of Mystery Science 3000 theater than I can when I'm watching this. It's like
God.
And it's kind of ironic because this film is the basis for our image on our show here, our big avatar, our big banner.
Yeah, but I think that's more about the iconography than it is about the quality.
I think that's kind of it, though. It's like I feel that's kind of what this movie is. It's like we have this little Nelly sequence is going to be awesome. The set is going to blow everybody away, and the rest of the movie will just figure itself out from there. And it didn't. At least not for me.
But it did cement the iconography.
I thought they kind of had some of the iconography there, like when they had the, in Thunderball, you got the Disco Volante, which was really cool. You got the DB5 and the Fort Knox and stuff, and Goldfinger and the Henchman with Odd Job. I thought that movie was really solidifying the majority of the formula before.
Yes. Anyway, Steve's back again. How are things?
Let's give this movie a rating. How many martinis do you give this movie?
You go first, Scott. 4? I'm gonna I give it a 1. One martini.
1 martini.
I did bored chore when I take off the shelf the least, if not at all, unless I need to do it for a recap.
This is the most forgettable Bond movie for me. I give it a 3.
No,
3 martinis.
I give it it provides so much of the iconography of what a James Bond movie
right, but you
is.
said
it is so strange that it is a parody of itself.
Right, but you said it. It's like you said it yourself. It's iconography, but if the character and the stories aren't there to support it, then you just have really cool looking stuff. Like, I've seen a lot of bad movies which look really great and have a lot of iconic stuff in it, but that's not going to make it good or get. I mean, I give them mostly a star for the craftsmanship and the cinematography, but I just.
4 Donald Pleasances.
1.
I give it 4 Donald Pleasances.
1 martini.
Okay.
Kill Bond.
4, 3, and 1. So we go take some chats.
Yep.
Yes, let's.
No, let's do it.
Edge of Time. Greetings from the edge of the lair. I know Edge of Time already left, so we can use whatever accent we wish. Cinema Gulp, looking forward to this one, you guys. Well, thank you so much, Cinema Gulp. And also, if you have the opportunity, you should go check out his review with for The Protege. Cinema Gulp says, yeah. Nice turtleneck, Scotty. Well, I was trying to approximate James Bond thing. Like, I couldn't get the head, like the sock. This is what he wears. And so I'm very happy with it. Bumpmaster Vaughn says, if Bridget the Midget shows up on the new Bond film, would she play Minnie Penny?
Maybe not if it was in the new films, but if we were back in the 60s, then yes, most certainly she would be playing Minnie Penny.
Bridget the Midget is an adult performer?
Yes, I believe so.
Oh. Cinema Gulp continues and says, I like the North American trailer quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the international trailer better.
It was better.
Well, Cinema Gulp says, hey there, Scotty. Watch it, dude. Quantum of Solace is good and Star Trek be great. Quantum of Solace is not good.
But Star Trek Beyond is pretty great. Out of the 3 movies, it's the best one.
Well, no, even if you just put those 2 movies back to back and say which one is better, I would say that Star Trek Beyond is better than Quantum of Solace. Cinema Gulp says, I think if Logan wasn't good, Hugh would have been more willing to come back. But since it was a borderline masterpiece of comic book movie, It was just perfect to swan song it.
Yeah,
And look,
I actually don't think that's the case. He was really adamant about his workout schedule to be able, and not just during the shooting of the movies, but you had to stay that way pretty much the whole year. It's not like he could, go and put on a bunch of pounds and then just crunch and crunch for the movie. He pretty much stayed in that kind of shape the whole time he was Wolverine. And he said many times that was one of the major reasons why he was ready to hang it up on that. He just Logan being a great movie, did that help his decision? Maybe, but I think he had pretty much already decided, at least publicly, he had decided that workout routine was a beast.
Right, but I think he might be onto something as well, and that Hugh may have been a little bit more hands-on with the story for that one as well, to make sure that it was going to be good, so that he wouldn't be in a Daniel Craig Spectre situation.
Yeah, maybe.
But I think that, the finale of Daniel Craig's James Bond tenure is equivalent to Hugh Jackman's Logan.
Oh, I don't think so.
I'm looking forward to it to be such.
We still got a month.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen it yet, so we'll figure it out.
Well, not only that, I mean, it's just Hugh Jackman played how long? 18 years?
Yes, 17 years about.
17 or 18 years of Wolverine,
Yeah,
and five films for. I wouldn't equate the two.
I would.
Good for
I
you.
would allow it. Just for the conversation, not necessarily because I'm digging my heels in the sand and saying this is what I think, but like if you are allowed to step away from a character in the same way that Hugh Jackman has from Wolverine in Logan, if this is how Daniel Craig steps away from James Bond, I think that it will be an interesting thing. I've said before, and I'll say again, I would love to see James Bond die, and at the end of the credits of that James Bond film, it says, James Bond will return. I don't care. He's a fictional character. I want to see the story. The only problem is that you can only kill him once. And same thing with Wolverine.
All right, what's up next?
I've never been told to shut up in a more concise way. Bumpmaster Vaughn says, that's a good point. And I appreciate that. I knew there was something I liked about you, Gulp, at Cinema Gulp. Oh, that was all for Cinema Gulp, so I understand. Edge of Time says, I loved the Moonraker space aspect, but even as a child, I cringed at Jaws. Oh,
cringed at Jaws.
We'll get there. We'll talk about Jaws when we get there. We aren't even there. Edge of Time says, it looks like Aston Martin DB might get a satisfying run, and it does. I'm really looking forward to seeing the Aston Martin. Kat?
Thank you, go.
Let's see. Skip some of these hellos and what have yous. Ninjas and
Ninjas and
Well,
Turtles.
and yeah.
Ninja Turtle.
Ninjas and Turtleneck? Absolutely. Why do you...
Yep.
Cinema Gulp says, yep. I know next to nothing about Bond, so I consider this class by Scott and Kat at the Fantasmagorium show. Well, heavens. We will have another class next week when we discussed on Her Majesty's Secret Service. And I
replied schooling me as well.
Oh no, Kat, you're a savant.
Bunyan Snipe says Blofeld did that to mess with Bond. And I can't remember exactly what we were talking about there.
Something about Blofeld messing with Bond, and
Probably the one he points the gun straight at Bond and ends up shooting Osada instead.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's such parody. Shoot him. Just shoot Bond. Bunyan Snipe says, auto gyro, not a helicopter. Yes, I corrected as soon as you said it, sir. Thank you. Bunyan Snipe says, the Pee Wee Herman level dub job. What?
We were making fun of Blofeld's voice and how high squeaky it is compared to Eric Pullman's voice.
Sounds like us. Edge of Time says, Kissy is better than Facey. Please look forward to the next season of Cagney and Lacey. Cinema Gulp says, gotta run. Later, guys. Great show. Well, thank you for dropping by. Thank you for stopping by. We were trying.
Yep.
Bunyan Snipe says, Lewis Gilbert was the comic book James Bond director, but ironically, the Bond comics were much closer to his books.
Closer to the books.
Yeah. I'm sure this has something to do with Moonraker. Bunyan Snipe says, I need Wolverine to be a bit more like Oddjob than Jaws.
DB5.
No. Disagreed, you're wrong. And Bunyan Snipe says DB5.
All right, that'll do it for tonight, guys.
All right.
So
Good show.
We're done?
Yeah, hour and a half. And that was all. That's all the chats for the.
We're not going to talk about James Bond anymore?
No.
Oh,
What we can do is tease next week's episode.
Yeah, next week we will be reviewing On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Do we know what list we're going to be running down? Or we'll keep that a secret?
Let's keep that a secret. I'm not sure yet.
Okay. We'll let you know.
Unless Scott already has an idea. I can tell that he's thinking.
Yeah.
I am thinking. Oh. No, well, let's keep it a secret. I don't want to do anything without talking.
All right.
Good idea. But come back next Wednesday night for more James Bond talk. We are halfway done, guys. This is I think we had 10 weeks, right, Kat?
About, yeah. So
and this is week 5, so I think we're just about halfway there.
2. Yeah, we have 5 more to do till we get to the week of the film.
Yeah.
Or we'll be at the week of the film at that point. Yeah.
All right. So good. Halfway through, we'll do 5 more. Then we'll go watch the movie, and hopefully it's good. We'll come back and
we don't get
do a
to
review.
We don't get to do that until the 8th.
Yeah.
Wait, that's right. Yeah, okay, yeah.
But yeah, no. What do you want to do next week?
We'll figure it out. We will let everybody know.
Absolutely.
Oh my God. Sorry, I just got caught in my own confusion. Anyway, yeah, no. Let's attempt re-entry, Mr. Bond.
With that, we're going to call it a night. So I'm actually going to end with the trailer for my book, but we will say good night. You can find us, the Fantasmagorium Show, every weekday, Monday through Friday. You can find us doing Set to Stun, which is Star Trek chat on Mondays. Every Wednesday, the Bond Show here. And then on Thursdays, Turgay does his Cult Classic Movie Corner. And until next time, for Catherine and Scotty R37, I am Steve.
Wait. There's only one thing. Martinis, Gadgets, and Guns will return next week with On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Kat, are you in?
I am in.
Let's go.
Have a great night, everybody.